So, Mike, are you ready to start our show today?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, for the invitation tonight. This is a great honor to me, as I wrote in my LinkedIn post when promoting this event that obviously we met while you were preparing for your book when you were doing the research for Startup Evolution Curve, which I found as a very inspiring book. Oh, hello there. Hi,
Yeah,
Edward.
yeah, yeah. Hi, Edward. So, Mike, let's go and deliver the content. So, those people who will join, they can obviously ask any questions, any questions related to the matter that we discuss. But you are the main host of this event, Mike. So, I will just be asking questions to you to help us and other SaaS founders to get a better understanding of how to prepare for fundraising, how to meet those investors with confidence, and how to get that deal that is actually a win-win situation for both of us. So I can very, very briefly introduce myself. Then I would ask to introduce you, because if somebody else is watching the recording, I know you, you know me, and most of our connections who join in the call, they know at least you or me, and that's fine. So in a nutshell, what I do, I help SaaS founders validate their idea and get customers even before writing a single line of code. We do that through the double sprint method so that we achieve 4 key milestones before launching SaaS. Well, hard launches with SaaS doesn't work anymore, especially if you are a startup. You can't put all your bets and expect that once we create the product, we will do some fancy marketing stuff and we get traction, we get customers coming in now. So we do like 4 key milestones. We get real world feedback. So we actually build a product that customers not only love, but they are ready to pay for. This is the vital thing. The second milestone is when we craft a revenue ready demo. It is a necessary tool to get some initial traction, what I firmly believe, and I actually know that investors are looking for. If you have no traction, probably none of the investors will be so excited about your startup idea, because idea without implementation, without traction is worth nothing. The third milestone is early adopters advantage. How to take the advantage of those early adopters, how to pre-sell your SaaS, how to get money, or at least commitment that customers will start paying you money when you build that tool. And eventually, the fourth milestone is to build a customer waiting list. Just imagine you are coding, you are developing your software, but simultaneously you're building the list of customers who are waiting for your product release. So upon when you're ready to release, when you click publish, we are officially available, you have the list of 100, 200, 1,000 potential customers waiting for that product. And by the way, thank you, Mike, that you mentioned my book. This is exactly the strategy that I did with my book launch. My book became one of top 5 best-selling books on Amazon, and that was due to the waiting list of readers. So when I was writing the book, I started building the list of readers, saying, hey, if you want to get access to this book whenever it's ready for the best possible price on Amazon and to get some additional bonuses to win prizes consulting with me, just simply sign up and invite your friends. And what happened? On the launch date, I had more than 14,000 subscribers waiting for the book release. So I just had to click the publish button on MailChimp, no, MailerLite, to send the email blast to those 14,000 subscribers. Hey, the book is already published. Go and grab it there. And that's how it became a bestseller. This is the thing that I teach other SaaS founders to do the same thing, the same magic with their software or their platform. And now, Mike, I would like you to introduce yourself, like who you are and where you do the magic, where tricks happen on your side, and how you actually help SaaS founders or any other audience.
Thank you, Donatas. So I help business owners to get financing or to help them raise capital to start their businesses. And I started 3 businesses myself. Two of them were acquired, and we met while I was building my second startup, actually, as you were preparing for your book. And after reading your book, I wish I had known many of those things that you have written about retrospectively, and I found it really inspiring.
Okay, so let's go into the matter of our today's topics. So could you tell as potential investor, as the person who helps founders secure investment, what do successful startups do right in terms of attracting investment? So if anyone is looking for investment, say, where should their focus go on the first place?
That's a great question, and it's no secret that I have prepared for this meeting. So I have a slideshow to share, if I may.
Awesome, awesome.
So
Please
I'm
share.
accepting. Thank
Yep,
you.
yep.
So
Now.
currently, I work in partnership with chartered financial analyst Brian Olson, who has helped me over the years, and we help startup founders and business owners to get their financial planning and business planning in order. Because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Um, Entrepreneurship didn't choose, or I didn't choose the entrepreneur life. The entrepreneurship chose me. My family had an accounting firm, and I interned at our family accounting firm during my school years. And I grew up among entrepreneurs, and I always wanted to be one. I started my first company back in 2006, which was capitalinvest.co.uk. And this was a heavy learning curve for me. It was my very first online business inspired by Shark Tank, or Dragons Den in Britain, where people could upload their business plans and pitch for investors. So the investors were our audience. And with the 2008 financial crisis, when the appetite for investment dried up, we promptly went under. So it's also important to know that while we focus on what successful startups do right, which you have written extensively in your book, and you have obviously researched all these successful startups, it's very important to know why startups fail and what the startups didn't do who failed. So people look at the successful startups, and that's what you hear about in the news. And in the Second World War, there was this experiment where they were looking to reinforce planes so that they won't be shot down. But they were only looking at the planes who made it, which made it back, and they were reinforcing the areas where those planes were shot. But what they failed to realize is that those planes actually made it back. So instead, an American scientist from the University of Columbia suggested that actually the areas that weren't shot on the planes that returned are the ones that should be reinforced. And that's kind of the situation with startups as well. So it's not what the startups do right, it's what they didn't do actually that makes them fail, really. And that's what doesn't
Mhm.
get talked about as much.
Yeah, so it's not only about watching for the success path of those like success stories who actually got funded, but we should look at those who failed to get funded, to those who failed to get customers and real traction from the market. Do I understand your point of view correctly?
100%. And one of the things that you mentioned is actually the validation that you help companies with. So, one of the greatest mistakes of startups is creating a product and then trying to find a market or for an audience for it. And if you spend all your money, resources, and years on creating that and then fail, that's a much harder failure than if you launch an MVP, or if you try to validate the idea as soon as possible, adjust, adopt, and based on that, take something to the market that there is a need or demand for. And this is something investors are actively assessing your startup by. Is there a need? Is there a demand? Is there a market for your startup or business idea?
Mhm. Uh, Great, Mike. So this is like one of the questions that I ask you, like to share what investors' criteria you see as the crucial criteria. Like, okay, let's focus on those and forget about everything else. But these are like must-haves if you want to get funded, like your startup. And you mentioned that instead of building the final version of the product, we should focus on building the MVP and getting some traction. And actually, we even had a discussion with Ash Moria, the author of Lean Startup, here on LinkedIn as well. And I don't know if you noticed his post that he is stating, and I 100% agree with him, that now it's like a common advice, build the MVP to get first customers, but it's totally wrong right now. A while ago, it was okay. You build the MVP, you show to the customer, you get those initial customers, and that's fine. But right now, the market is saturated, especially if you're going into a software market, into the online platform market. There are a lot of alternatives. So why the hell I should waste my time like putting my hands on half-ready, half-baked product instead of, any other competitor in the market? That's much tougher challenge to show the MVP, to put it into the hands of the user. And what Ash suggests, and when we had like a discussion, it's about building the offer. Ash calls it like a mafia offer. I call it revenue ready demo. Like we came to the similar similar insight from different points of views, but we are totally on the same page. And when we want to get the estimation, if there is a market, if there is a need, I suggest creating the revenue ready demo. You just create the mockup, and even without a mockup, you can have simply a presentation. What is the problem? How you solve it? And what's your offer? What is another problem or another issue related to the problem? How you solve it? You put like 3, maximum 5 problems addressed in your offer, and then you ask, hey, would you be willing to get your hands on this solution? Just yes or no, no hard feelings, because we haven't invested anything. It's just a discussion. So don't be afraid to tell me that this is a shitty idea and I shouldn't put my money and time on that. But if you say, well, this is something interesting for us, then I would ask for one of 3 possible commitment types. Either it's commitment in money. Okay, can we sign the agreement, the contract that you will pay me once we build it, and we, promise we obligate to build it until this date according to this specification, like a normal sales process. Or we are looking for their commitment in terms of time. Will you assign a couple of your employees into our workshop to help us fine-tune this product to make it work for your company and etc.? It means their involvement, they invest kind of their time in it. Or I simply ask to invest their reputation. So who else should I talk to who has the same problem? And if they told me that, yeah, this is really amazing solution, what you're doing, Donatas, yeah, cool. But when I ask, can you introduce me to someone else who has the same problem? And they say, for me, it's kind of like a red flag that it might be not a serious problem. This person simply might be very polite with me. But if they introduce me to someone else, to John, Anna, or someone else, I can come to them and say, hey, I already have a warm introduction. I know that they might have the same problem. And a lot of things are becoming much easier in this case. So I just wanted to refer to this point, like markets, and if there is the need for that product or service, it's totally number one, like criteria, at least from my point of view. But the stage is yours. Like maybe you could add on top of this, or would you move to another one criteria?
I mean, yes, I would probably add to this that I have bootstrapped my 2 successful businesses that were acquired. They were totally bootstrapped. So I built them very organically. And just recently, I was having a chat with one of my clients, and they wanted to build a really complex and elaborate solution. And what I asked them was to strip it down and simplify. I asked them, like, what is it that you can do for your target market, the people that you want to serve? What is it that you can do for them now? Like at this very moment, how can you help those people? And we came up with a totally bootstrapped, very simple solution that will enable them to start generating revenue, get traction, get validation at this stage, and gradually reinvest, build on top of that, and with an established client base, maybe raise investment. Because once you already have a client base, once you have real market data, real feedback, then you can build on that because you're building on on well, a validated idea technically, right? So then you know that this problem really exists. People really need solutions. This is how the solution look like. And as you develop these relationships with your existing customers, you try to find out more things and more specific needs, and you can customize and tailor your solution around it rather than creating something complex and elaborate to take to the market that people feel like, well, this part of it is okay, but this is a bit of a mismatch. I don't really need that part.
Actually, this is one of the key questions. What I do when I do the double sprint audit with SaaS founders, I simply ask, what is the key value that your solution, that your tool will create, and what is the key feature, the essential feature, the only one single feature that will bring closer to that damn value. Let's remove all bells and whistles. Let's strip it down to the core value of it. if we can't find it out, adding more bells and whistles won't make the product better. It just makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean, I
so
remember for argument's sake, I remember with my first, with my second startup actually, we used back in the day, this was 2015, we used Zoho as a CRM.
mhm.
And I remember when I first logged into Zoho, there was so many things in there, and it was just a mess. The whole thing. I'm talking 9 years ago. And you look at Zoho today; they really cleaned it up, and now it's a very good and comprehensive solution. But back then, 9 years ago, we had to switch. We simply switched out the CRM because I thought that this was unusable.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, I would suggest us to move forward. I know that we could take, a cup of coffee, tea, beer, or whatever, and have a long discussion on
Sure.
on each of those key points. But what are other criteria?
So the second criteria would be, is the business model viable? So obviously, investors are looking to make money on your business by backing your business, by supporting you. They won't necessarily, or likely most of them, they won't do it just to be nice to you,
Mhm.
but they're looking for a business opportunity, and your business has to make commercial sense to them. So as much as your business might create a job for you or might substitute a full-time work, that's not a reason for an investor to get on board with your business. So your business has to be much bigger than just supporting you or creating revenue for you and your employees.
Mike, do you have any data about the viable startups? How attractive they are for investors? I totally agree that if you build a startup as a viable business, it provides positive ROI. It makes sense to invest in it, to scale it, and that's fine. But what if we are talking about viable startups? I build the startup, I build the product, which might not be profitable right now, but I know that in the future I could be acquired by one of the behemoths in the market so that they could cut their time and investment and etc. And then I will get back my ROI. I know it's kind of like a gap between reality and expectations, but how investors look into those?
That's a really good point. And I have a friend, and he built 5 successful startups that were all acquired. And his
Mhm.
framework is actually he looks for companies and he looks for what these companies need. And startups are way more agile than
Mhm.
big companies like SAP, Oracle, etc. Right? So often they can build a solution faster that can get acquired by bigger companies. So he built all his startups from the very beginning
Mhm.
based on research how likely how likely it is that he's going to get acquired by one of the companies. So he identified 5 key players on the market who might need this solution, and he built a startup with the end goal in mind to get acquired by one of these larger companies.
Awesome. For me, it looks like analogy of the hunter. If you go for the hunt, you need to understand what are you hunting. Are you hunting foxes, boars, or whatever? So instead of building the solution and hoping and praying that somebody will buy it, that will buy my company, it's just, spray and pray or whatever. Just go ahead and pray. But your friend, what he does, he found 5 targets for whom the solution would be similar, as far as I understand. Like he's building the same solution, and one of those 5 players could purchase it. Is it correct?
It was actually an add-on to their solution. So just
Uh-huh.
like Facebook acquired Instagram,
Yeah.
right? So I'm talking about a parallel service that can be added to their portfolio to extend
Okay.
their portfolio offerings, and that's how he built it out. So he was never looking for building a large customer base or
Mm.
generating revenue or whatever. His end goal was he knows that if I build this, I'm going to get acquired by that company because they need this to extend their offering and to remain attractive and
Yep.
relevant to
And
the
and his
market.
focus was on building really well-performing product instead of building the business.
Exactly.
So in your case, if you build the viable business, obviously you will be interesting for investors, but as much as high is the ROI potential of your business. But you
Exactly.
can also be interesting for investors if you have your targets as a hunter who might acquire you, and if you can prove the value of it.
Precisely.
Okay, cool. What are other criteria?
So biggest criteria probably is, can the team execute? So it's no matter how good your financials look like or how good your idea may be, everybody has idea.
Mm.
Everybody can, project numbers, let's say, or come up with hypotheses about how profitable their business might become one day, or draw comparisons with successful startups that we are the Uber of I don't know which industry. But at the end of the day, it's whether you can make that happen or not.
Yeah,
And
it's not just about dreaming, it's actually doing shit and getting the
And that's
result.
the hard part. That really is the hard part. So, like, if you don't have any leadership skills, if you don't have any management experience, a lot of it will come down to that, because there is only so much you can do by yourself, and you're going to need to surround yourself with other people. And you might already have a co-founder, you might have a small team, and you may be able to do so much. But when we start putting pressure on your business, not like the investors, etc.,
Mm.
but let's say as the business grows, is the team going to stick together? Are they going to be able to execute under pressure? Are you going to be able to hire at speed, build a team at speed that can still perform? Are you a good conductor?
Mm. Okay. And are those top three criteria, or you would add something additionally to those?
Well, I mean, these are the fundamentals, and then the
Mm.
most important is your
Is
business scalable? Like, can you
yeah,
replicate the results without actually inflating your
costs,
resources, or without
variable.
needing more resources, right?
Mm.
So everybody's looking for a high ROI, and if S&P offers 10, 15%, then why risk? Why take a bigger risk?
Yep.
So we need higher returns, and for that, your business need to be scalable without
And
getting
wi-
more investment to produce bigger results.
and SaaS industry, SaaS startups are in a very favorable position because there's like fixed cost to build a solution and variable costs to maintain and to deliver the solution. They are not as high as the initial investment. So you need a lot of investment initially to build that stuff, but then to keep it going and to scale, well, you need more on marketing and sales activities to scale the business, but not for the product scaling opportunities. Yeah, servers and something else, you still need something, but the leverage is in your hands if you build really demandable solution for the market.
I mean, the greatest liability in a business are people, right? So when you need a lot more people to scale your business, that usually ends up being a negative score on your investability, in a sense. So it depends on the service layer, like how much service do you offer
Mhm.
as part of your software solution. So if we, let's say, increase the user base from 1,000 to 10,000, how many more people do you need to hire to serve a 10 times bigger user base? And is
Uh,
that proportionate
Yep.
to the return on investment that we're
I
projecting?
I have a question here. When we are talking about scaling, we should we should remind ourselves that the business can be either marketing driven or sales driven, usually. So marketing driven business means that you get customers through marketing. You generate leads like through ads, you onboard them via emails, in-app notifications, and etc. There is like very little human touch, like very little human interaction to onboard your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, this software is low ticket software, like 49 a month, 95, 200 probably at max. And on the second hand, we have sales driven business where you need to have sales development reps, business development reps to have
Right.
these discovery calls, onboarding calls, and all mumbo jumbo stuff around explaining how the software works. But then you can charge tens of thousands of dollars per year per customer. And in terms of investors' criteria and scalability, is there a difference in investors' minds when it comes to either the marketing-driven startup or sales-driven startup? Because sales-driven startup
This is
obviously will need more labor force in this.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I feel like the first one, the marketing-driven startups, typically fall into the B2C category, and the sales-driven startup typically fall into the B2B category, where the sales cycle is also significantly longer, and the account holders need to be nurtured and taken care of at a different level. But like like you said, the value of those customers are also substantially higher than $50 a month B2C subscriber.
Mhm. Okay, so it's not necessarily like B2C. Most often than not, yes, it's B2C, like a marketing driven. But for instance, email automation tools, they charge $9 per month up to 299. All of them are marketing driven. If you want to start
100%.
sending your email newsletters, it's like a business solution and it's like marketing driven business. That's totally fine with that.
Yeah, unless you go for Marketo, which is an enterprise level
Oh
solution,
yeah.
and then
Yeah, that's
obviously
one
then
of the
the price point is different, and so is the customer care.
it's one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive tool. And I actually had the Marketo as a case study in one of my trainings, showing how they validated their idea. Actually, founders to build the Marketo to launch it into the market, they started the blog. I don't know if it would work out in our days, but at that time they had a bunch of ideas what a perfect marketing newsletter tool would look like. And instead of coding everything from scratch, it would have required hundreds of thousands of dollars. They started posting blog about each problem they intend to solve. And those articles that were most liked, commented, and shared, it was an indication, oh, people are looking for the solution of that particular problem. While other problems, they were left outside of the ship, and they simply didn't build that in Marketo.
This is a great example. I think the way this translates to today's world is that you often see software startup publishing their development timeline about features, and people can upvote features. So this is publicly available, and you can go onto the Trello or Jira board, and you can upvote features that you'd like to see, and the features that get the most votes, they are the ones that get prioritized in the development pipeline.
Okay, good. So let's try to fit in our schedule. I know again that we could have a long, long discussion. We could have
Yeah,
a
it's
whole day
hard to squeeze
discussion.
in.
Yeah, but okay, I like that. You know, as I said, let's join, even though the LinkedIn kind of canceled our event, but let's have fun, you know, and let's share the content with the audience. My question would be about the funding stages. It's not just about like what are funding stages. Come on, you can Google for it, you can ask ChatGPT for it, and that's it. But you are like a fundraising expert, and you are in the trenches. And which is more difficult, which is harder, like to get the initial investment, like seed, pre-seed, when you are nothing, or when you need more capital, like tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, like in serious, I don't know, B, C, D, or whatever. Which is more difficult, and could you share how you see the whole picture of fundraising stages?
I love this question, and thank you for asking this. Obviously, I will share the different stages. So there is the pre-seed and the seed, and this is usually the ideation stage. And then Series A would be the go-to-market, and then Series B, C is usually about scaling, while the DE is going towards the acquisition phase or the IPO. Even Series C would probably be already preparing for an IPO. Now, businesses, about the funding, to answer your question directly, uh, people don't give money to businesses that need money. Usually, this is the catch
you,
22,
you know,
right?
there's a joke. If you need, what is the bank? So the bank is the place where we'll lend you money if you don't need it.
100%. Not very different with
Yeah.
VCs. So if you're sustainable, if you can make money yourself, then everybody is happy to throw more money at you so you can make more money. So this is the catch 22. I mean, there are surely incubators, and there are different schemes that support your business, that can support your business at an ideation stage. However, really your best chances to get funding is when you're sort of self-sustainable and you need money to grow and scale your business.
Okay. Um, how would you see like the preparation stage for funding, for the initial funding? And maybe this could be related to different sources of funding, because like while I'll be able to get to the VC, I need to grow up to a specific stage, because I won't be simply interesting for VCs. I won't have anything to offer to them. But if I simply start with friends, family, and fools around, like it might not be enough what they have for growing my business. So how to handle like the different funding sources and how to pick where to focus my attention. I hope it's not going to be like the case for every founder. Hey, whoever has money, throw at me, and I will do something good for this world. So more professional approach. What it would be?
I mean, I think this is the most challenging for first-time startup founders. If you have experience, if you built a startup, you would have learned, and you also get more trust, and you also get more support. You know, once you accomplish, once you have some results to show, then it's far easier to get support, right? If
Mm,
you're a first time founder, then you really got to prove yourself, and then it becomes harder, then it's a battle. So that's why it's important, like for first time startup founders, I think they really need to focus on just generating revenue as soon as possible, like with whatever they can deliver. What's the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit? You got to just focus on the lowest hanging fruit, and once you get that, then you can eat the lowest hanging fruit and get energy to climb higher and get more fruits and start filling your basket.
okay, so it's literally very advisable to start bootstrapping, because if you can go on a bootstrapped base, you don't need money. You can negotiate better terms for investing in you.
100%. I mean, first of all, you don't have to forfeit equity in your company, so it still remains under your control. Once other people, venture capitals or incubators get involved, there's going to be outside pressure on your company to start generating revenue. Um, they're going to have their own opinions on management styles, on hiring, on what your company needs, what it doesn't need. So you giving up, you have to sacrifice a lot to bring other people on board and get them involved, which is good because usually these people know what they are talking about and why they are putting the pressure on you. So it's sort of a guidance, and it is very helpful, especially when you're a first time founder. But just as with money, like, people who don't need it are more likely to get it. Same with this, like, people get the support who don't need it so much, right? So
Mhm.
it's difficult. And banks is the same with banks, right? Banks are not there to finance your idea,
It's
or
only for growth
your business.
stage when you
Exactly.
can prove traction and when you can prove that you will return that credits through your
Exactly.
revenue.
It's risk it's just risk management best practices, right? It's basically the bank has to make sure that you can repay them. If your
Mm,
startup fails, they lose the money, right? You can write it off through bankruptcy, but the bank will not be able to recover that. So they can't let that happen, right? It's an
mm.
institution. So there are alternatives to this, and you can apply for different startup funding from government. There are a lot of incentives depending on what's your niche, what um, social benefits your startup will
The,
create.
the,
Like if
I,
you
I can
if you're in
confirm
sustain.
I can confirm 100% these are really great initiatives. And for instance, in Lithuania, we had like a year ago or a couple of years ago, like an initiative, InnoStart or something like that. And it was giving away like 25K up to 40K euros with an intensity of 85%. So it means if you get 40K, you just need to add like 15% of that. It's like 5 or 6K from your own pocket to develop the MVP. But it had to be uh, in the prototyping stage, close like to go to market stage, like to build a real product. And it had to be an innovation based startup. It's not just like, okay, I will build another one marketplace. No, that wouldn't go for it. But if it's like a true innovation based, like something related with AI, blockchains, I don't know, biochemistry or whatever, you could get that money from government, as you mentioned, and you don't give away any equity. You build the prototype. Okay, even if you will have to remake half of that prototype later on, at least you are not losing 100% of your investment. It was covered by government. Gosh, so you have some space for experimenting with the product itself.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a ton of initiatives depending on what space you're in and whether you say like you're promising that you're going to offer like 10 jobs in your region. So there are grants in regional development. There are grants in sustainability, social sustainability, medtech, technology. So you just need to shop around, and there are even some startup competitions as well. Sometimes you can enter startup competitions and win grants or win prizes. And again, this doesn't require you to give up equity, so you can actually use this money to build your startup and build something meaningful. And all they usually require is to put their logo on the bottom of the website.
Mike,
You've been
practical question. Maybe you have the list, or you could refer where our listeners could find the list of those initiatives. I assume they should be done by countries. For instance, in Lithuania, you would go to Startup Lithuania and you would see possible, incentives for startups in Lithuania. Probably in almost every EU country and in United States, there should be similar websites. And any hints where to look for such grants and subsidies?
Just like you said, this is very country specific. So in the United States, it might even be on a state level. So you need to maybe look on your local government websites. Same with the European Union member states, and now UK is of
Mhm.
course separate, so they have their own separate agenda as well. So it's really very country specific, and I don't have a global answer for it all, but usually on your local government's website, they publish these available grants. And you can also look for different networking events in your specific industry or in your specific niche where other startup owners can advise you about these things, or you can even go to grant writers or to your
Mhm.
accountants, and they might be able to give you specific
That's
information.
that's an awesome tip. Actually, apply to grant writers, those who prepare like all the documents for for winning the grant. You don't obligate to pay them anything. Just simply shop around and say, hey, are there anything possible for me in my particular case that I could apply for? If I could, maybe I will hire you to prepare all the documentation. So let me know whenever it's available, anything that might suit my specificity. And this way, like grant writers would be doing the job for you, like keeping their eyes open for possible grants.
Yeah, I mean, usually they take a fee from the grant, so everything that's acquired, they take a fee. That there might be some upfront consulting fee as
Mm-hmm.
well, because whether you go for banks, government, or whether well, we're not there yet. Whether you apply for VCs or angel investors, you do need to have a business plan, and you also need to have your pitch deck. And likely, many of these institutions will ask you for a cash flow forecast as well. So they need to see what are your projections. Definitely the banks, they would ask you because again, they need to make sure that they get the money back. So the best way to prove it is to show them your financial plan and explain how you are going to achieve those results, which what
And
the business plan is supposed to serve, right? So for the government with the grants, they're not so strict on the cash flow side of things, but you still need to have a compelling business case that your business is viable and that you'll be able to build it up and deliver results.
cool. Let's proceed with the other funding sources. I know we have a lot of ground to cover, and I even got a few questions from our like attendees of that previous event. Hey, I would like to ask this or that. I said, okay, jump into the event and ask us straight. But as the event officially was canceled, probably they are not here. I don't know. So if you guys who are here, Edward and Wessel, if you would have any questions, just turn on your mic, ask us, stop us simply, or put that in the chat, and we will gladly answer that. But for those who will be watching the recording, obviously, I have to ask Mike some questions who were that were submitted before the event. Okay, Mike, let's proceed. Like government crowdfunding.
So crowdfunding is another fantastic way to raise funding, and we applied this with one of my clients. They've been part of an incubation program, and instead of applying for a second round of funding, which would have diluted their equity, they decided to crowdfund the market, the go-to market of their product, which worked out very nicely for them. So they went with AppSumo initially. I'm not sure if are you familiar with the platform
Oh,
AppSumo?
I'm addict of AppSumo. I have purchased so many software tools out there, and I don't
It's
use half of
brilliant. There
them.
you go. There you
Yeah,
go. Here, this is your testimony. So AppSumo works. You have a good
yeah.
software. You have an MVP. You're good to launch. It's usable. It's working. Put it on one of these. There are other platforms like AppSumo.
Mm.
AppSumo is probably the most popular one. They have great marketing and it's a really fun community as well.
But
So
AppSumo keeps the largest share for themselves if they actually promote it. As far as I know, it's like 15 to 20% if they promote like an AppSumo Select. You can get more, but you will be like a gray mouse. There's not sure if somebody will see you, you know.
sure, I mean it's better than a kick in the teeth, as they say, right?
Yeah,
I mean, at the
yeah.
end of the day, you get market validation.
Mm.
A friend of mine who launched his software on AppSumo, they raised 200,000 euros within a week.
Nice,
So,
nice.
I mean, it's a really a viable way of
And
funding. And again, it's better to take or give AppSumo and platforms like that a cut than to
mm,
give away your equity, especially if your platform has real
100%.
potential
Yep.
and viable. Then, on the short term, you take a cut, but on the long run, you still got the valuation, you still own the entire value of your company.
And I actually remembered another one case, like one of my customers, Hong from Vietnam, he actually launched on AppSumo. I don't recall, he said like 45K or something like that. He collected out there for his tool. It was like, it's a meaningful amount of money, come on. Even though he was selling it at 29 or 49, but selling to thousands of users, this means something already. And another thing is very good with those like crowdfunding approaches that you collect testimonials and you can make those testimonials public on TechCrunch, on or everywhere you want. And you
That's right.
simply add additional tier level, additional bonus if they submit the testimonial. And actually, what I did, I'm the customer of MailerCloud, an email automation tool. And they said, well, if you put a testimonial about us, they even don't require to put a 5-star testimonial. Honestly, what you think about our tool, and we will give you plus 1,000 subscribers to your plan. If you put three testimonials, 3 reviews, we will put you like a permanently plus 3,000 subscribers. Awesome deal. So you can also
That's right.
leverage that.
And these crowdfunding platforms are usually quite lenient in a way that you don't need super heavy compliance, like you don't need ISO certifications for your software, and you
Mm,
don't need like a code audit and whatever. So they're quite lenient. They really let you test and try without putting too much pressure on your company, right? So I think it's a really friendly way and a real way to test your product on the market. Is there a need for it? And if you get these kind of results, like your friend from Vietnam
mm,
got, or Mailer Cloud, etc., when you get the results, then you see, okay, people like the idea. They need this kind of stuff. So
yeah.
now, how I make it better? I got some money. How can I leverage the money that I have collected from the crowdfunding to make it better and to better serve this audience?
And here I would like to add one more note that crowdfunding could be the way also to B2B tools that are sales driven. Like on AppSumo, you can sell what is marketing driven because they simply see it. There's no like chat with a salesman. You simply just like the tool or don't, and that's pretty straightforward. But actually, what we are doing with SaaS founders, it's very similar as your friend did. Like you're focusing who might benefit most from my stuff, from my tool that I'm building. And let's say I need to invest 100K to build that tool, to build that software, just for the sake of simplicity, like 100K.
Mm.
I come to 5 companies and tell, if you are ready to pay 25% or 30% of the cost, you will have the tool. You will have it for a lifetime. You will have
Brilliant.
the source code, but I will keep the source code for myself and I will build a business on it. We signed the license agreement. You will have this tool for your own company. You can't resell it, or you can't rent
Mm.
it anywhere else. But if you would go and try to build it for your own, you will have to pay 100K. But now you can get it for 20, 25, 30K. And if we don't build it on time or according to tax specifications, you pay us nothing. So just imagine you find 4 or 5 such customers, clients, you've built your tool for free without money out of pocket.
This is precisely how we built my second startup, Inboxes.
Hmm.
So it was an email deliverability monitoring tool and spam testing tool. We had aggregated spam filter data, and this is exactly how we built it. So we had it sort of crowdfunded by a few email marketing companies, and instead of them spending time and money on hiring people and delivering the solution in house, we got them to finance our development and gave them a lifetime license.
Mike, the further we go down to the list of possible funding sources, the more I'm convinced that we don't need investors at all, because you can get through government, through crowdfunding, through friends, family, fools. You don't need investors. Like, okay, let's finalize the list, and then I will ask you, like, when should I go to VC, to venture capital? And when it is like a good fit for me and for them to have that meeting, so that, you know, I'm not someone jumping out of nowhere asking for God knows what.
I feel like the
Ah,
next
okay,
two
okay, okay.
we can cover together the angel
Mm,
investors and the VCs. There is a bit of nuance or difference there. Nevertheless, maybe angel investors would come in at an earlier stage, and VCs would come in really at a stage where you're more serious. And I think the best way to differentiate when you really need a VC or an investor. If you want to go public, if you want to have an IPO, then it's definitely good to have a VC backing you, or more VCs, in fact, backing you and your development and your company, because there are going to be legal complications, there are going to be lawsuits from competitors, there are going to, like, people are going to actively try to stop you and drain you to damage their market share. And for that, you definitely need a powerhouse behind you and in your corner, to help you navigate that world, because it's not easy.
yep. And what we usually see when we work with SaaS companies, with early stage, especially early stage SaaS companies, we look into investors not just as a source of money, but as a source of connection and access to specific markets or specific integrations. Obviously, if I know the investor from that specific market and we have like possible integrations, connections with other tools in the market, we know the man who knows another man. And guys, there's like a warm intro. He's interested to help our startup grow, and we can, you know, so strongly jumpstart if we get really good connections. I mean, human personal connections, so that our software is connected with somebody else's software. And that's why investors are sometimes more valuable than their connections are more valuable than just the money they put on the table.
Totally. Plus, there is something that's called smart money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when investors bring specific market insights to the table as well. Let's say they have experience with similar solutions or with the market that you're serving, and they can guide your development to the growth of the company in a way that is accelerated, right? So, like you said, there are the integrations, the connections, and there is definitely the market insight, or the insight to your business model and how to optimize your business model in a way that serves you best.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. So now I would like to get back to that question. So when should I go to VCs? When it is the right time? Because now when I talk with SaaS founders, um, depending on where they are from and depending on their experience, some of them say that we should have at least 20K MRR so we are interesting for VC investors. 20K MRR allows us having like one developer, one salesman, one marketer, and some marketing budget. It could be like a self-sustainable business. We could grow it, just putting more money makes it more scalable, and that's fine. It makes sense. It makes sense. When I talk with a couple of investors, like talked like 2 weeks ago, they said for us it's 10K MRR. We kind of like open gates for and start checking those opportunities. While other startups, they believe that they could get VCs interested when they reach at least 5K MRR. I don't know, what are numbers like from your experience? What is realistic right now? Because as I mentioned, those people have different experience. They are from different location, and times are changing and situation is changing very, very rapidly.
I mean, I feel like things have changed a lot over the past years, and what I'm experiencing and what I'm seeing on the market is that VCs are really focusing on trends, right? So there is like hype investment happening. VCs are focusing on industries that are hyped up on one side, and there are other VCs that are focusing on really long term industries like medtech, like pharma, etc. That is always in need, right? It's inevitable. So they focus on investing into industries that are really a necessity or fundamental. And you'll see this in the statistics as well in a minute. Before we get on to that, so this is a little older data from up to 2021, and you can see that um, the startups, there are startups being founded at an early stage, but
Hmm.
most of the startups actually are being founded at a later stage. So startups in a
Hmm.
later stage get substantially
Mike,
more funding.
it's if I understand it correctly, the bar shows not the number of startups, but the money funded.
That's right, yes.
So it means it can be fewer startups, but they attract more money for each.
They definitely are like
Hmm.
late stage startups. Not many startups survive past the
Yeah.
3 year threshold, right? That's pretty much the make or break. So when you get past that 3 year threshold, definitely the landscape is much cleaner.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
then we look at the industry. So this explains so fintech is typically highly favored. Then you have the internet and software services,
Yeah.
e-commerce, and direct to consumer. So right now,
Mhm.
fulfillment is a really big headache for a lot of the companies, and I think some of the best performing companies are called the last mile solution. So the people who actually do the door-to-door delivery services, and that's what they're trying to solve. Amazon discontinued the drone delivery service recently. That hasn't worked out, so that problem is really not solved. That's a big
Mhm.
headache for e-commerce. Artificial intelligence that has massively grown. Obviously, that's the greatest hype of our time, and there that will create a lot of opportunities. It's really in baby shoes. And health, of course, everybody knows from COVID how some of the companies like Moderna perform, but it's not just them, like robotics and everything in health and medtech. It's huge right now.
Mhm.
So these are the areas that are totally worth focusing on, and they are the most likely to attract investment. I also know education tech is quite low down
Mhm.
this line, but it's actually still one of the fastest growing industries. And again, COVID showed the holes
The
or the
potential. Yep.
and the vulnerabilities in education, right? It's
Mhm.
something happens like in Australia, remote education is the norm because there are many small towns scattered around, and for
Mhm.
them to deliver education, they had to do it online for years. But in Europe and America, this was like completely new, and everybody had to adopt rapidly. And now, as everything is developing much faster with artificial intelligence, there's going to have to come to a point where there is an education reform
Mhm.
because educational institutions can't keep up with the knowledge, like with the pace the knowledge is getting updated. So if
Mhm.
you enter a course, a university course today, by the time you finish in 5 years' time, the world might be a very different place.
Mhm. Mike, I want to stick to our time because we are like
Yes.
more or less like an hour on this. It's really interesting for me. And if you have to share anything additionally to that, like aspect of trends, where should I focus my startup? If they have an opportunity, like to pick the market where I want to do, please share that. But we had one of questions like from the audience, and those
Please.
people are simply asking like how to prepare for impactful conversations with investors. Obviously, you need to have traction. You need to be ready to live on your own. That's obvious. But any tips also would be.
Very, very good, very good. I love the question. Whoever asked that, you're on the right track. So basically, first of all, go in there prepared. And by being prepared, I don't mean armed with information about yourself, but try to look at your business from the investor's perspective. Try to understand what investors are looking for. They are there to do business, to make money, and understand what are the criteria that they assess your business by. If
Mm,
you can prepare your presentation according to their criteria, according to their requirements, and present it in their language, then you're far more likely to succeed than if you go in there and bombard them with information that they might not necessarily understand, because you understand your business, they understand finance.
So you need to connect both because well, we might not know the investor's point of view to our startup until we reveal like all cards or almost all cards. What is startup about? What's the traction about? What are our plans and etc. And simply like, um, I very often get the question like, how much money I could get for how much equity. And I know that there is no like a rule of thumb of it, but maybe you could give some guidelines. Like if you are like in a pre-seed stage, in the seed stage, what could be realistic to expect? And is it, I know that it is actually related to the location. Where are you like based? Like if it's like United States startup, if it's like European startup, if you are in some other countries, again, there might be limitations on how much you could raise and how much equity you could give. But from your experience, from your practice, what would be these numbers as a guideline, like if I'm getting like a good deal with investors or not?
That's a great question. And the equity is related to the risk the investor is taking. So, in a pre seed stage, the investor is taking a much higher risk because you don't have validation. You haven't tested your idea, you're still developing. So, in a pre seed or a seed stage, you have to give up far bigger equity than if you have taken your product to the market and you're generating revenue, like that 20K that you mentioned is kind of like a sweet spot. So around that, it depends on the industry. It depends, but say, you can maybe get 100,000 euros at 10%. To
Hmm.
go to the market to go to market, and that would be kind of like an okay-ish deal. So as a ballpark, but it's a very generic
Mhm.
statement, and it depends on the industry, depends on the location, depends on your financial forecast as well. With Uber, how long was it before they became profitable? I think it was over 8 years, even
Quite a
more.
long time, quite a long. So,
Exactly. So if you go in there and say, well, I don't know when I'm going to be profitable. Right now, I just need to get traction, or I need to build my user base, and then maybe I'll be profitable in 10 years. Then they're gonna say, well, we're taking a massive risk on you if you ever become profitable, or if the market doesn't change due to AI
mhm.
and the recent developments by the time you're predicting to be profitable. So you're gonna have to give us 30 to 40%.
How it is common to address the whole fundraising process from the point of view that as an investor, I'm investing in your startup right now to lift it to some other stage to get like more traction, more user base, more revenue and whatever. And then I'm looking not to get like return on investment like on an annual base, like dividends or something like that, but I want to sell my stocks during the next funding round. Is it a common approach from investor side, or it's not popular? Because I know that most people don't like talking about that, and we are here for a straight talk. Like, let's tell how it is actually.
Uh, Look, I mean, investors are not there to marry you and until death do you apart.
Mm,
But let's face it, like
yeah.
they're there to make money, and at the end of the day, they will want out at some point. Now they will stay on board until they ride out the trend. So you can look at it as trading, right? If you have it traded on the stock market or forex or whatever, they're gonna try to ride the wave until they maximize shareholder value, right? And then they will want to get out. So let me just skip past a few of these slides to be mindful of the
Mm-hmm.
time. This is an interesting one. So startups have converted 717 billion into 4.2 trillion market valuations.
Mm-hmm.
So this is that there is definitely a potential, but you need to increase the value, right? You need to create value. And we'll just skip past this and the
Mm-hmm.
unicorns for now as well. And this is what I wanted to get to. So when you start raising investment, the round of investment need to last you until the next round. So like when you get investment, really the goal is how to get to the next round of what you need to deliver to get the next round of investment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fail to raise, usually it ends up in an M&A, like a merger or acquisition. Then you likely want, or they will sell their equity if you fail to raise the next round, right? So you want to go for either an IPO, right? When you go public, and when you can build a unicorn like Rocklick did in the Czech Republic, right? Or what was the other company? Social Bakers, right? um, you want to either become a unicorn, and if you fail to raise, that means that you fell short of some sort of target. So that's when they looking to be getting out, because that indicates
They don't want to be in that
that you
boat.
have peaked. Your
Yeah.
solution just reached the peak.
Mm. Okay, Mike, I see one question here in the chat. Hey guys, what's your opinion on using development agencies to speed up development? Does it make sense at any stage to make use of such services? I can answer from my side, but Mike, can you answer from your side in terms of like in investment wise?
I mean, sure. To develop the MVP, probably at one point you, if you're a software startup, you want to retain control, first of all, your code, and then the development as well. So to get the MVP up and running, you might want to outsource it. You might outsource certain, like developing a widget for your application, that might be outsourced, but to outsource the entire process and to have an entirely outsourced team, that's a big risk, right? It's about security and risk.
Mhm. I would add, like from my side, Wessel, that I see this use really valuable in three cases, and there are pros and cons. Obviously, if you have everything outsourced to somebody else, to other company to build, it means they keep your balls in their hands. Uh, Pretty straightforward, right? And you don't want this unpleasant situation. But when it is useful to have development, SaaS software platform development agents, IT development agency to help you out. The first thing is when you are building the MVP, the initial version of the product, especially with no code or low code solutions. And we're going to have one of the events with other experts, and we will talk about how much does it cost to build the MVP with no code or low code tools. And I was surprised that it's not as much as I expected. It can be done with development agencies at a lower cost than I assumed. So it would make sense to build that MVP. It would be much faster than finding employees and explaining and working everything. Usually IT development companies, they have their processes in-house. They will give you questionnaires, they will review a tech specification, they will kick your ass and tell, hey, this is bullshit. What, please give us clear instructions. And if you don't have clear instructions, it means you don't have clear vision of the product. Don't build it until you have it. So this is one thing. The second part, these agencies are very useful if you are a solopreneur, a single founder, and you are not a tech person. It means you are a business founder. You know how to do marketing, how to do sales, how to make connections, but you don't give a crap about IT development. So, yep, the best case would be to have a co-founder to set the relationships, and the co-founder takes the tech co-founder takes everything on his shoulder to make sure that the product is built according to specifications, and that's really good product. But if you don't have that co-founder, obviously it would make sense to work with an agency, but be sure that at some point in time, you will probably cut this partnership with the development agency, because you want to have your in-house developers, your in-house team, to take the full control of the software. That would be not only, less expensive, but also more safer, simply safer, and
Mm.
and you could move faster. And yeah, the third version, when development agencies make sense, is when you need some extra hands. Even if you have a tech co-founder, you have your team in-house, but you need to build one or two or three features, as Mike mentioned, like you need to build a gadget, an app, or whatever it is, like an add-on to what you already have, a microservice or whatever that could be easily integrated in your software that is built in-house. Then it makes a perfect sense. Instead of hiring 2, 3 additional employees and spending 2, 3 months, you can outsource it to an agency which has like 10 of developers, or maybe they even have some frameworks already in their hands, and they could leverage that and bring your idea to the market much faster. So that it would make sense. So, Mike, would you like to share something else? I have more questions, but I want to be respectful to the time of all attendees and to those who will watch the video. The main question from my side is, you shared a lot of really great stuff, and how you can help, if you can help SaaS founders to get funded. So if they tested out friends, family, and fools, they try to get traction, they are looking for grants right now, they're thinking about crowdfunding, what you actually do. Maybe you have some battle stories to share, what you did so far, and how you could be like beneficial for founders.
Certainly, and I'll be happy to share. Just to add one thing to these three cases that you
Mm,
mentioned, uh, the sales. So sales are going to make or break your company. If you want to be
mm,
profitable, you have to do sales. So in my experience, the companies that succeeded, it wasn't because their solution was better or superior. It's because they were better at sales. So lesser solutions or lesser products often succeed simply because they have better sales, and very good solutions sometimes don't make it because simply their sales and marketing is not as good.
mm,
So this is such an important point that you mentioned. And if you're a skilled sales or marketing person, and you're thinking about starting a business or you're in entrepreneurship, sometimes it is better to look at acquiring an already built product that is similar to what you're trying to
mm,
make, rather than getting into development and trying to manage developers and creating a solution. Because just because you're good at sales and marketing, it doesn't mean that you can project manage a development or you can have that solution created that you envision. So in some cases, it's better to build something, or better to buy something that is already built, or partner with a team that is building something, acquire a share in a business, and join forces. That's something that you can get behind, rather than build something on your own. And
mm.
how we can help, uh, right, the magic of thinking big, right? Exactly, you have to aspire for big results. You can't, we don't help companies that want to replace their corporate jobs, etc. That's not who we're helping. We
It's
help
not, it's
companies.
not a true startup, it's just as
It's not a
you are
free
starting a
startup. If
business.
you
It's
want to
not a
be a
startup.
freelancer,
Yeah.
by all means, you can be a freelancer. It's cool. There is no stigma. There is nothing wrong. But that's not the type of companies we typically work with. So, for example, we work with a company. We are working with a company called Schülering, and Schülering is a hospitality startup that revolutionizes training and hiring in the hospitality space. So obviously they went through these notions as well, that they were looking for funding, right? And then they were in an ideation stage when they started seeking funding, and they reached out to us. So instead of helping them to get venture capital funding at an ideation stage, we helped them to represent at the European Union tourism conference, and we arranged different funding for them, different funding sources from grants, and we developed an MVP, or we help them develop an MVP without getting a big funding, get validation, get market traction, generate revenue, and once they are self-sustainable, then apply for funding and give away much less of their company. So we help with the business plan development, cash flow forecasting, and the entire financial planning stage of your company, how to manage your finances and your fundraising in a sustainable way that is benefiting you. And we help you to get the investor's perspective. We literally guide you through the development of your company the way investors would, without actually taking equity from you. So with us, you just pay a consulting fee, and we'll do the same. We don't take an equity in your company unless you want to give
And
us
it's
some.
much cheaper than giving away equity of the company. Gosh, that's an awesome. How they could get in contact with you, Mike? I know they could connect with you via LinkedIn, and oh yeah,
Sure,
you.
just osenhanda.com. And like I said, my business partner is a chartered financial analyst who was in corporate banking for many years. He overseen big mergers and acquisitions, and I'm more on the business planning side, somebody who's built a couple of startups that got acquired. So together we help you. And I definitely do recommend you read Donatas's book because it's a very good book, and I wish I'd known some of those things when I started building my first startup.
You know, Mike, I wish I knew these things before I was trying to build my first startup. Actually, that was the reason why I've written the book, why I did the research. I failed with my first startup, and I had to do the research. I had to figure it out, what what not to do and what to do. That's the thing.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. So,
So
I mean, I feel like we've given a lot of shortcuts to people here. You with your book, and if they decide to work with me, I can definitely help them to save those painful experiences that we both went through, maybe.
cool. So just to recap, I hope you found value, even if you're watching the recording. If you would have any questions after you're like watching the recording, you can submit your questions down below in comment sections wherever we will post this video. If we post on LinkedIn or on YouTube or whatever, me and Mike will put an eye on that post and we'll answer your questions. But probably the best way for you to get most value out of me and Mike would be to reach out to us directly. You can find us on LinkedIn and simply reach out. You can reach out to Mike via his page. And Mike, will they get on a free discovery call with you, or how you would proceed usually?
Yeah, definitely. We offer a free discovery call, no problem. I mean, absolutely. We need to assess whether we're the right fit and whether we can even help you. You know, it's
Mm,
not granted just because you're developing a startup that
yeah,
we'll be able to help. So we like to only
cool.
partner with people who we can actually truly help and support.
That's fair enough. We also do the same approach. So in a nutshell, if you're looking for funding for your startup, get connected with Mike, approach him, get on the call with him, and simply get his like free opinion on your situation. And if he can help you, he will show you how and what and when could be done, and you will proceed from there. If you are looking to validate your idea with true money, with true customers, if you want to build a waiting list of customers while you're building your software or platform, you should connect with me also. And we have the process that it's not always me who's gonna do the first call with you. I have my colleagues already. We get quite many requests to help out. So initially, we have my colleagues having that discovery call with you. And if it makes sense, those colleagues will put through the line to me, and you will schedule the call with me, and we will review your situation. If if my colleagues will see that this is definitely the case that we could help you out, maybe I could even offer you a free double sprint audit, like an hour or so call with me, where we'll analyze your situation, do the diagram of the double sprint, and I would explain what would I do as critical next steps in your particular case. And from there, if you want, you can go and implement on your own. If you want, I can show you how we work with SaaS founders. So if you're looking for customers, get in contact with me. If you're looking for money, not from customers, but from somebody else, get in contact with Mike. Yep. So that's it from my side, Mike. Anything to add?
Yeah, the last thing to add, don't try to raise money when you're desperate. So if you're at the end of your runway, if you got like two months worth of money left, it's not the right time to raise money. Like, if you have 1 year, 6 months, and you know that your burn rate, and you know that you're going to get through that money, and you may not be profitable at the end, that's the time when you really need to start thinking about how to get funding, because it takes time, and we're not there to rescue your failing startup, right? So this is, you need to be a little bit critical about your business and about yourself.
Okay, so thank you, Mike, for being here, for investing your time and sharing your knowledge and experience with the audience. It was valuable. And as I said, I would love to have a cup of coffee, tea, or beer and have a longer discussion with you and to share that with the audience. But, the time is limited as it is. So thank you once again. And yeah, so anyone else, if you're interested, let's get in contact with me, with Mike, and let's proceed through one-on-one calls. So thanks for being here, and bye.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Donatas. Bye bye.